The ticket prices. This does not shock me at all. What did I say earlier? The WNBA was about to F around and find out, and these rival teams were going to be in a lot of trouble. Well, they're finding out.
The lights dimmed, the crowd roared, and for a brief moment it felt like the WNBA had finally shattered its ceiling. After years of struggling for attention, battling for packed arenas and mainstream relevance, everything seemed to click. Viewership soared, tickets sold out, and the energy rippled from stadiums to social media to national broadcasts. It wasn't just hype, it was history in motion. But then, one small headline changed everything. A single player ruled out for a few weeks, no major injury, no dramatic announcement, yet the entire atmosphere shifted overnight. Ticket sales dipped, engagement fell, and merchandise slowed. What once looked like an unstoppable empire suddenly showed cracks, as if pulling one brick from a towering structure made the whole thing shake. That's when a harsh truth came into focus. Was the league's rise truly built on lasting growth, or was it all carried by one transcendent superstar? The answer stung, exposing just how much of the WNBA's success rested on one name, and forcing a sobering realization that its future may be far more fragile than anyone wanted to believe.
The Caitlin Clark effect has been a net positive for the WNBA and all of its teams. But the star guard expected to miss a minimum of 2 weeks. The league will see the flip side of her impact, and there are already initial data points. This is front office sports, no conspiracies, no BS from them. Statistical data.
Before the rumors of her absence even began, the WNBA was riding an unstoppable wave of momentum. Every Indiana Fever game had become must-see entertainment, with tickets disappearing fast, some topping $80 just to get in the door, while courtside seats soared even higher. The buzz wasn't just noise. It was electric, undeniable, and it pushed teams and arena officials to take bold, high-stakes risks to capitalize on the moment. Take the Chicago Sky, for example. They didn't just adjust their strategy. They went all in, moving their matchup against the Fever from their cozy 2,400-seat Wintrust Arena to the massive 21,000-seat United Center, a venue built for NBA icons and sold-out concerts. It was more than a logistical shift. It was a statement, a full-blown bet that Caitlin Clark's star power alone could fill every seat and electrify the league. Because let's be honest, everyone knew exactly who the fans were there to see.
To hit the panic button 48 hours after news hits that Caitlin Clark is injured and she'll be missing 2 weeks, the market has responded and the market has told the WNBA, we don't want this. We want her, but we don't want this.
Then came the moment everything changed. What began as a quiet whisper exploded into headline news. Caitlin Clark, the unstoppable force driving the WNBA surge, was out, sidelined. And in an instant, the league's electric momentum vanished. The reaction was swift and unforgiving. The market didn't wait to think. It responded with brutal clarity. Without her, this version of the WNBA simply didn't carry the same power. The silence that followed wasn't just disappointing, it was deafening. Fans stopped showing up, ticket prices tanked, and the once sky-high demand evaporated overnight. Nowhere was it more obvious than in the Chicago Sky versus Indiana Fever game at the United Center. What had been one of the league's most coveted tickets, starting at $86, plummeted to just $25 within hours, a staggering 71% drop and a painful blow for organizers who had banked on a sellout. And it didn't stop there. The same story unfolded when the Fever faced the Washington Mystics. Empty seats, slashed prices, and a harsh reality settling in. This wasn't just a fluke. It was a wake-up call. Loud, clear, and impossible to ignore.
Chicago Sky can't sell out their own 9,000-something seat arena like it is. They couldn't when they were kind of decent. They're a dumpster fire now. And now that Caitlin Clark is injured, the ticket prices for the Fever and Sky game just plummeted to Hades.
What was once a hot ticket selling for $41 quickly lost its shine, crashing to just $22, a staggering 47% plunge that left both fans and front offices stunned. And it wasn't an isolated dip. Zoom out, and the bigger picture tells an even harsher story. Across 5 major Indiana Fever games over a 2-week stretch, average ticket prices had been soaring at around $137. But after the injury news broke, that average collapsed to just $80, a sharp 42% drop in barely a fortnight, exposing just how brutally and instantly the market reacted.
They stink now. Yeah, it's about me too. No, it's not. And this is proof.
This wasn't just a minor dip in interest. It was a thunderous message from the fans. No Caitlin Clark, no tickets. The demand couldn't have been clearer. People weren't showing up for the WNBA itself. They were showing up for her. And when she wasn't on the court, everything changed. The energy, the buzz, the anticipation, it all vanished before tip-off. The atmosphere felt flat, like someone had let the air out of the entire arena. That eerie silence said more than words ever could. The league's explosive rise, the one everyone had been celebrating, suddenly looked far less stable. Because beneath all the hype lay a fragile truth. This surge in popularity wasn't the result of widespread growth. It was being carried almost entirely by one extraordinary, game-changing superstar.
To games over the next 2 weeks have dropped 42% since Caitlin Clark's injury announcement, an average ticket price of $137, all the way down to $80.
This wasn't just about a superstar missing a few games. It was a harsh, unfiltered spotlight on the WNBA's deepest cracks. The numbers told the story. Cold, brutal, and impossible to ignore. They confirmed what many had quietly suspected but few were willing to say out loud. Caitlin Clark isn't just another player. She's the engine driving the entire league. It's as if the whole operation runs on her fuel, while everyone else rides shotgun, hoping to catch some of the fire she creates. The surge in popularity, the packed arenas, the viral clips, the booming ticket sales, all were hailed as signs of a new era, proof that women's basketball had finally turned the corner. But this moment shattered that illusion, exposing a painful truth. Almost all that momentum was built around one generational star. When she's not on the court, the league doesn't just lose excitement, it loses identity. Because beyond Caitlin, the WNBA still lacks a deep bench of equally magnetic, marketable stars who can carry the torch in her absence. And that's the real problem. The kind no highlight reel or marketing campaign can fix.
People are selling their tickets, definitely can't get face value, so what do? They just continue to lower and lower and lower and lower and lower the price. This isn't all resellers, folks. Hate to break it to you. A majority of these are everyday normal people. A majority of these are everyday normal people who watch Caitlin Clark in Iowa, watch her in her first year in Indiana, said, man, I want to watch that. I want to go to those games. I want to experience that. They won't be able to experience it. Time to sell.
It was a reality check the WNBA couldn't ignore. If just a brief absence from Caitlin Clark could trigger such a massive collapse in interest, what did that really say about the league's foundation? This wasn't about 1 or 2 games. It was a red flag waving over the entire business model. The ripple effect was undeniable, hitting ticket sales, fan engagement, energy, and even the league's financial outlook. Marquee matchups like the Chicago Sky versus Indiana Fever, once symbols of the WNBA's rising power, suddenly lost their shine. The electricity was gone, replaced by the harsh sight of empty seats where sellouts were once guaranteed. It wasn't just numbers dropping. It was an atmosphere collapsing. Even casual fans could feel it. The buzz had vanished. This wasn't your typical star injury, where fans still showed up out of habit or loyalty. This was different. This was serious. The league's heavy reliance on Clark's superstar gravity had backfired, and the fallout was unfolding in real time. Without her, the magic disappeared. The idea that one player could carry an entire league crumbled under pressure, leaving teams across the board scrambling to stay relevant in the silence she left behind.
I mean, it's more statistical proof, data, to confirm exactly what we've been saying, that Caitlin Clark is driving this whole ship, this whole bus. She's driving it. Everybody else, get in the back. Get in the back.
With Caitlin Clark suddenly out of the spotlight, the attention didn't disappear. It shifted, and it landed squarely on Angel Reese. To many, she seemed like the natural heir to the moment. Her bold personality, undeniable charisma, and trend-setting style had already made her a household name. Off the court, she'd built a powerful brand that resonated with fans who saw her not just as a player, but as a cultural icon. She was always in the conversation, always making headlines, and never afraid to speak her mind, even declaring that people watched the WNBA because of her. It was confidence, it was swagger, and in a league suddenly missing its biggest star, it was exactly the kind of energy the WNBA needed. Desperate to keep the buzz alive, the league turned its focus to Reese, hoping her fame could fill the void, driving ticket sales, headlines, and national attention the way Clark had done week after week. But as the spotlight shifted, one big question lingered. Could Angel Reese's star power truly carry the weight of the league's expectations?
The marquee matchup in the WNBA, like it or love it, rivalry or not, Chicago Sky, Indiana Fever, Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, that is the marquee matchup in the WNBA, and those tickets are crashing just as well. From $86 48 hours ago to $25. And by the time June 7th rolls around, it might cost you a bag of Skittles and some Lay's potato chips to get in there.
But this is where the numbers told a very different story. Once Caitlin Clark stepped off the court, all eyes turned to Angel Reese, and the pressure was immense. This was her chance to prove she could drive the same excitement, sell tickets, and command attention at the same level. But the market's response was swift and brutally honest, not quite. The highly anticipated Chicago Sky versus Indiana Fever matchup at the United Center, meant to be a marquee showcase of the Reese versus Clark rivalry, unraveled the moment Clark was ruled out. Ticket demand collapsed, the buzz vanished, and the massive arena that was supposed to be electric felt hollow and oversized for the occasion. And it didn't stop there. Even the Fever versus Mystics game in Baltimore, where Reese was promoted as the hometown star, couldn't escape the drop. Tickets that once sold for $41 fell to just $22, a 47% plunge that made the truth impossible to ignore. Despite the hype, Reese's presence alone couldn't recreate the frenzy Clark had sparked. The numbers made it clear. The excitement, the energy, and the sellout magic weren't transferable. They were uniquely tied to Caitlin Clark.
And we have plenty of evidence that proves Angel Reese is not qualified to carry the lead.
Then came the uneasy silence. Angel Reese, usually outspoken and confident about her influence, was suddenly quiet as ticket sales plunged and fan interest dropped sharply following Caitlin Clark's injury. That silence sparked uneasy questions among league insiders and fans alike. Was Reese intentionally staying quiet to avoid uncomfortable scrutiny, or was the weight of expectation simply too heavy to carry? Either way, she found herself in an impossible position. She's undeniably a star, bold, marketable, and magnetic, but the demand for her to single-handedly replace Clark's impact was immense. And the numbers made it painfully clear she couldn't do it alone. The stark gap between Reese's celebrity status and her ability to sustain fan turnout compared to Clark's draw exposed a harsh divide, a reality both she and the WNBA would now have to confront head-on.
The get-in tickets for the Fever's rivalry game against the Chicago Sky on June 7th are down 71% from $86 to $25.
You might be wondering, what about everything Angel Reese achieved in college? Her highlight reel performances at LSU, those viral moments that captivated millions, and her massive social media following that rivals top professional athletes. Shouldn't all of that seamlessly translate into WNBA success? It's a fair assumption to think her star power would naturally carry over and command the same level of attention. But the harsh truth, revealed by the league's recent market slump, tells a different story. Caitlin Clark possesses a nearly unmatched ability to draw crowds, fill arenas, and drive record-breaking ticket sales, while Reese's impact, at least so far, hasn't moved a needle in the same way. This doesn't take away from Reese's undeniable talent, competitiveness, or charisma. She's a magnetic athlete and a genuine star in her own right. Yet the league's over-reliance on one player has now been laid bare, exposing the uncomfortable reality that even its second biggest name can't sustain the same economic and cultural momentum on her own.
These prices are going to continue to drop.
Wednesday's Fever game versus the Mystics at CFG Bank Arena in Baltimore has a get-in price of $22.
The brutal reality exposed by the market's reaction underscored a crucial truth many overlook. There's a massive difference between being a star and being a true draw. You can be wildly popular, a household name with millions of followers, and still lack that rare power to fill arenas or drive viewership on your own. As some critics bluntly put it, you can be famous and still fail to attract a crowd. That harsh truth became the WNBA's costly lesson. The league's quiet gamble on Angel Reese as a reliable secondary pillar, someone who could shoulder a major share of the league's economic momentum in Caitlin Clark's absence, proved to be a misstep. Ticket prices plummeted, attendance dropped, and the electric atmosphere that had filled arenas quickly dimmed. Despite Reese's enormous popularity and media presence, she simply couldn't stop the slide. This wasn't about her performance on the court. It was a glaring failure of the league's broader marketing strategy and its risky over-reliance on a small handful of stars.
This game get-in was like $100 at one stage. This was $100 at one stage. Let's go one ticket. Or well, is it two tickets? Two tickets. Let's just see what it costs for court. Look at how many, oh my God, look at how many people are selling tickets.
Beyond the immediate fallout, a deeper issue came sharply into focus. The league's overall foundation and the perception of its true strength when its biggest star, the one who had turned overlooked games into must-watch events, was suddenly sidelined. The spotlight shifted from individual talent to systemic flaws, forcing an uncomfortable question. If the WNBA's product is genuinely strong, why does it depend so heavily on a single player to hold fan interest? The immense pressure placed on Angel Reese to carry that weight only underscored how fragile the league structure really is, too reliant on one name, too shallow in its broader appeal. The situation delivered a sobering message. In the unforgiving world of professional sports, fame alone doesn't guarantee sustained financial success.
But I'm like, I didn't realize just how bad it was going to get. I didn't realize how bad. Like, they all moved arenas and everybody's trying to sell their tickets. Like, if you look, the get-in price is $23.80. $23.80 is the get-in price for tomorrow.
The financial fallout from Caitlin Clark's absence ran far deeper and was far more dangerous than most casual fans realized. The damage extended well beyond ticket sales. Empty seats meant massive losses across nearly every revenue stream. Merchandise sales plummeted, concession stands went quiet, and the once bustling arenas that thrived on fan energy turned eerily still. Those high-margin profits from food, drinks, and game day merch, vital for both teams and venues, evaporated almost overnight. And for a league already struggling to stay afloat, the timing couldn't have been worse. The WNBA was reportedly operating at a $40 million loss just last year, and Clark's absence turned that financial strain into a full-blown crisis. NBA owners, many of whom have stakes in WNBA franchises, began to grow restless. Accustomed to profitable ventures, they started asking hard questions. When will this league stop bleeding money and finally turn a profit? The growing frustration signaled a critical crossroads, a point where investor patience was wearing dangerously thin, and the league's financial future hung in the balance.
Even though the mainstream media wants us to believe that Angel Reese is a huge star, we have years of evidence that proves otherwise. Like I say all the time, there is a huge difference between a star and a draw. You can be a star, you can be famous, and still not be able to draw flies to a fresh turd.
Adding to the growing unease is the looming negotiation of a new media rights deal, a multi-million-dollar lifeline that could determine the league's future. The value of this contract, a cornerstone of financial stability for any professional sports league, now rests heavily on Caitlin Clark's continued presence and star power. If the deal, once expected to inject a major boost of funding, ends up falling short because the league's biggest draw is sidelined, the consequences could be devastating. It would mean tighter team budgets, fewer resources for players, and mounting pressure on the WNBA to prove it can sustain itself without constant financial support from its parent organization. What was once envisioned as a business model built on steady growth and expanding profits now stands exposed as alarmingly fragile, a structure dangerously dependent on the health, availability, and singular magnetism of one extraordinary player.
Angel Reese and the WNBA have been using race to bring awareness to an incredibly bad product. Once you remove Caitlin Clark from the equation, there's no reason for people to watch this league, which is why people haven't been watching Angel Reese throughout her career.
Then there's the daunting reality of the global market and the growing possibility that Caitlin Clark could take her talent overseas. Rumors are swirling about lucrative international opportunities in countries where women's basketball is booming and backed by deep-pocketed investors. In some of these leagues, Clark could reportedly earn as much as $20 million a year, a staggering figure the WNBA simply can't match under its current salary cap and financial model. And this isn't some far-fetched scenario. It's a real and looming threat. The idea that the league's brightest and most marketable star might leave for a bigger payday abroad serves as a sobering warning about the WNBA's precarious position. If Clark, or any top player who sees firsthand the league's financial limits, chooses to pursue opportunities elsewhere, the fallout could be catastrophic. It wouldn't just mean losing a superstar. It would mean losing the driving force behind the league's growth, jeopardizing sponsorship deals, fan engagement, and future media partnerships. In the end, it could put the WNBA's very identity as a premier basketball destination in serious jeopardy.
They're losing merchandise sales. They're losing food sales. They're losing beverage sales. They're losing big. They took a big gamble to get into that arena, and they're losing big because it's not going to be full, and those people aren't going to be buying things there.
The WNBA's current predicament mirrors a familiar pattern seen in other sports leagues that have inadvertently built their entire identity around one transcendent superstar. Look no further than Major League Soccer and Lionel Messi. When Messi sits out, ticket sales nosedive, and opposing teams scramble to keep fans engaged and preserve the hype surrounding the matchup. The WNBA now finds itself in that same vulnerable position. It's become painfully clear that relying so heavily on one or two marquee names isn't just risky, it's a strategy loaded with long-term consequences. While the league has made genuine efforts to promote rising talents and diversify its star power, no one has come close to replicating Caitlin Clark's unparalleled impact. Her ability to fill arenas, drive viewership, and captivate audiences nationwide remains unmatched.
They're getting a new media rights deal. That thing won't be worth shit. If Caitlin Clark was to either get really injured and couldn't play or decided to just say, I'm not going to play here anymore, I'm going overseas. Where, by the way, they would pay her, my God, some of those countries might pay her $20 million a year to come over there and play. And I'm not.
The WNBA's growing dependence on a single player has ignited heated internal debates, revealing just how fragile the league's current position has become. Some insiders have even floated the controversial idea that Caitlin Clark should receive superstar calls from referees, preferential treatment similar to what NBA icons or global soccer stars often get, to ensure she stays on the court longer and avoids foul trouble. Regardless of where one stands on the fairness or ethics of such a proposal, the fact that it's even being seriously discussed underscores a deep sense of desperation within the league. It highlights the uncomfortable reality that the WNBA's stability, both financially and competitively, has become dangerously tied to one player's presence.
It's going to be real tough because even if you're out 3 weeks, you're missing a lot of a real portion of the year. All right. The ticket prices. This does not shock me at all. What did I say earlier? The WNBA was about to F around and find out, and these rival teams were going to be in a lot of trouble. Well, they're finding out.
What began as a short-term crisis following Caitlin Clark's injury has now exposed a far deeper structural problem within the WNBA. The league faces an urgent question. How can it build a sustainable future without depending almost entirely on one player's star power? Simply waiting for another once-in-a-generation talent to emerge isn't a plan, it's wishful thinking. The numbers make it clear. Even the most popular players after Clark haven't been able to prevent steep drops in demand. To survive and grow, the WNBA must expand its spotlight, invest in developing multiple marketable stars, and create storylines that engage fans beyond a single name. Without that broader foundation, the league risks repeating this same damaging cycle every time one of its top players goes down, revealing a core weakness in its overall strategy.
He was the league. Keep in mind, my point I'm trying to get to is when it came out that the league lost $40 million last year, NBA owners that own portions of these WNBA teams were starting to get angry and ask a lot of questions about when is this league ever going to make money. So that tells you there was starting to be a little life support situation happening when the owners were starting to get angry about never making a profit on this league.
The WNBA now stands at a pivotal crossroads, facing the urgent task of redefining its future, strengthening its foundation, and ensuring long-term survival. In the wake of Caitlin Clark's sudden but temporary absence, the league's dependence on a single superstar has been laid bare. The message couldn't be clearer. Without real structural reform and a deliberate effort to broaden its appeal, the WNBA risks stagnation or even collapse. Its future growth, credibility, and independence hinge on one crucial shift: learning to thrive not through one transcendent player, but through a deeper, more balanced roster of stars who can collectively sustain fan interest and financial stability.
Caitlin Clark, they can make money with the new media rights deal. If that was to fall through for some reason, the league is cooked. Close it down. Or Caitlin Clark could, I don't know, call up Elon, start her own league.
The verdict doesn't come from critics or commentators. It's written in cold, undeniable market data. Caitlin Clark's immense influence on the WNBA has been laid bare by the dramatic financial collapse that followed her brief absence. The numbers paint a stark picture. Ticket prices for Fever home games plunged 42%, while the highly anticipated matchup against the Sky suffered an astonishing 71% drop overnight. Once electric, sold-out arenas have turned into rows of empty seats, a clear message from fans about where the league's true draw lies. Even as Angel Reese and other stars step into the spotlight, none have matched Clark's extraordinary ability to fill arenas, ignite excitement, and move the financial needle. Her college legacy of record-breaking performances only hinted at her power. Now, in the pros, the numbers confirm it beyond any doubt.
So anybody with a connected brainstem knows that Caitlin Clark is far better of a basketball player and has made such a tremendous impact in a greater number, more so than Angel Reese. Everybody knows that. Her college career was better. The stadium sales, the WNBA popularity has gone up because Caitlin Clark.
This isn't a small setback. It's a massive, unmistakable wake-up call for the WNBA to rethink everything about how it builds its market and secures its long-term future. At the core lies a defining question. Can the league create a truly sustainable business model that doesn't depend so heavily on the health and presence of one superstar? Or will its success always hinge on the brilliance and constant availability of a select few? The future of the WNBA demands swift, meaningful change, a broader appeal, smarter marketing, and a genuine investment in developing the next generation of true fan magnets. Without it, even the league's brightest moments risk being overshadowed by its deepest flaws, leaving a promising organization staring down an uncertain and potentially grim horizon.